I'm Dean Newland, and welcome to Leadovation. Reimagine, facilitate, flourish. This podcast is dedicated to the art and science of innovative leadership. Through insightful interviews with industry experts, I bring you cutting-edge strategies and experiences of innovative leadership, helping you think differently, act strategically, and achieve remarkable results. Join me as I provide insights and tools that empower you to make smarter decisions, forge meaningful relationships. Welcome to Leadovation. There is something about standing on top of a mountain that stays with you, whether it's literal or metaphorical. When I was 17, I climbed Mount Blanc in Colorado with a group of friends, and I remember the burn in my legs, the team effort it took to get to the summit, and most of all, the sense of perspective I felt looking out over the valley below. That moment has stuck with me as a metaphor for my life. I still think about it. The joy is not only in the summit, I realized, but in the meaning we attached to the climb. My guest today is Dr. Eric Recker, and he knows this terrain very, very well, both as a dentist, a coach, and an enduring athlete who scaled not only Kilimanjaro, but also the mental mountains that so many of us quietly face. What makes Eric's story different isn't the number of blisters he's endured or the finish lines he's crossed. It's the shift he's made from running towards something to running for something, and learning in the process how to win the now. Eric's insights are refreshingly human. He talks about how burnout once dimmed his joy, how chasing accolades without purpose left him empty, and now reframing life as a series of small, intentional wins helped him rewire his mindset and his relationships. In a world where we are often stuck waiting for permission, clarity, or the perfect moment, Eric reminds us, you don't need to summit Everest or change your life. Sometimes it's as simple as choosing a different route home, standing like Superman for 2 minutes, or asking yourself, what did I learn from this? So if you've ever found yourself climbing the wrong mountain or wondering whether there's more to life than just getting through the week, this episode is for you. Listen in and consider this your gentle invitation. What if you choose to win the now? This is Leadovation Podcast. I'm Dean Newland. Let's dive in. Well, Eric, it's great to have you on the show. You and I talked before we hit the record button, and I wanted to start off in a remembrance when I was a kid to mountain climbing. And I think we had, as a 17-year-old, a group of us went to the top of Mount Blanc or Blanca. It was in Colorado. I think it was like one of the top peaks in the United States. And I remember the challenge of the physical exertion, but also working with a team of people to get us up there and back. But it had a profound effect on me, and it really sort of put in motion about this metaphor about continuing to strive for the next goal, the next mountain. And I refer back to it. I can still feel myself up there, looking out over the trees and over the valleys. And it's one of those anchors for me. And I know you've got some, but maybe as we get into this conversation, share with us one of your mountain stories and how it shaped your work that you now find so important with your clients.
Yeah, great question. I was fortunate enough to be able to climb Mount Kilimanjaro several years ago. And when I did that, one of the coolest parts about it is we did it as a fundraiser for a ministry that's in Tanzania. And so the goal was for us to raise money to help build their school. They had part of a school. The school was growing. They needed more rooms. So we were able to raise, as a group of 7 of us, almost $70,000 to be able to donate to this ministry. And it was awesome because that doesn't give you much in the U.S. But in Tanzania, that gave them 2 new classrooms, an administrative room, and some technology that they needed for the school. So the cool thing about that, I've climbed some mountains in my life that didn't have any purpose. and it left me wondering why I did it. This is one where we had a concrete why. We knew that we were doing this to support these kids. And so when we got to the top, there was not only the feeling of the accomplishment, but there was also the realization that in a couple of days we'd get to meet the kids that we had done this work for. And it was so satisfying to be able to experience all of that, because I find that a lot of times we climb mountains just because that's what we think we're supposed to be doing. And I've done that when I've had a distorted why, and I get to the top and the view is, it's great. The view is always good, but there's something missing. But when you know why you're doing it, when you do it with other people, it adds a whole new richness to it. So I can relate to your story big time, Dean.
So do you feel, I'm guessing, based on the way you just described this, that you at times, or even us, often find ourselves without that why, without knowing the reason for all of the exertion?
Yeah.
And if that's the case, what is the why do we do this to ourselves? I mean, is there something inbred in our DNA that says let's just go work without a purpose? And what's your take on that? What's the barriers for us to know what our why is when we're out there doing such strong, heavy lifting?
Yeah, so a lot of us have a story, and that story of when we've grown up or something that was said over us really has a bigger impact than I think we appreciate. I had one of those stories being bullied when I was younger, and I was told that I wasn't good enough. There's a whole big story about it, but the moral of it is I was told repeatedly that I wasn't good enough, and that's why I couldn't play. And so when you get that attached to you when you're younger, that's like getting a virus put in your computer. That's malware that gets installed in your brain, and it's there, and it's always right at the forefront. The way I dealt with I wasn't good enough was I set out to prove to the world that I was good enough. And so I hated running growing up. I despised it. I absolutely despised it. But I overcame that, and I felt like I needed to run to prove to people that I could do it. But nothing was ever good enough. I always was dealing with that broken operating system. So started out with 5Ks, and I went through marathon, and then I thought, oh, maybe triathlon. And I didn't know that this is what I was doing. That's only kind of been revealed to me in the last several years as I did some deeper work on it. But then I started with triathlon. Maybe people think I'm good enough if I do that. Oh, well, yeah, triathlon, I did it so much. I went all the way through the Ironman distance, and I just got burnt out because I didn't really understand. I get to the finish line, and then it was like, what's next? What's next? So I tried mountain climbing. I tried all of this. I found myself at the top of Mount Princeton, which is near Leadville in Buena Vista, Colorado, when I was out there for the Leadville 100 mountain bike race. And it was 3 days before, so I basically ran up that 14er. I was in such good shape. But I got to the top of that mountain, and I looked around, and it was gorgeous, but I felt completely empty inside. And the thought that hit me, and this has been so foundational in my life, if you don't know why you're climbing the mountain, you're not going to find the answer at the top. So I was seeking these mountaintop experiences, seeking this validation, seeking this is going to be the thing. And it never was. So really, when I came to that, I said, I'm not doing anything else until I understand why I'm doing it. And that's when I really stepped back and started doing the deep work. Like, is it worth the amount of training that you have to do for these things? How can I enjoy the journey and not just the mountaintop? Because if all I'm doing this for is the 30 minutes that we're on the top of the mountain, that's okay, but there's a lot of time. How can we enjoy the whole journey? So that's one of the things that I really like to work with my clients on is how can we get up that mountain, but how can we not kill ourselves in the process as well?
There's so many ideas that you're making me think about. So I'll start off with one of them. I've noticed that sometimes people don't take action because they don't know the why, because they haven't, and the way they would define the why is, I haven't figured out how to do this yet. So maybe that's a little different. So can we find our why we are doing? Like, for example, here's an analogy. There are certain people that I know, who first get a thought and then speak it. And then other people who go, I don't know what my thought is, but as I start speaking, I will find it. And then maybe if we're patient enough with those people, and that often is the case with me, with people, they kind of go, okay, Dean finally got to his point, but he couldn't get there until he started talking. In the same way, do people find their why while they are engaged in the mountain climb? Can that happen, metaphorically speaking?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things we talked about before we started, I made a comment about your backdrop that I think it's really cool. And you said, you know what, it's something we're trying.
Yeah.
And then we got into this conversation about experiments. I think we get stuck, right? A lot of people get stuck at different levels. And we get so concerned about failure that we stay stuck because we'd rather not try than fail. So I think one of the things we can do is just devise a series of experiments to try. And as we're trying those different experiences, try some hiking. If we're talking about the literal mountain and you're not sure about it, try some hiking. Don't go for a 14er right away, but ask around a little bit, find a hike that's really manageable, and then do it. Do you like it or do you not like it? If you like it, okay, let's see. Maybe I could do something better. What tools do I need? Is this something that I truly love? How can I do that? But you would never have figured that out unless you had done a smaller experiment first.
Yeah.
So I think you can absolutely discover your why on the journey, and you can also discover your why not on the journey as well.
Exactly.
And
I'm going up there on a mountain.
Yes. And both of those are worth your time.
You have a book and you have a desire around, I think it's winning the now. I have that right?
Yes.
What does that mean for those who don't know?
Yeah, so I was this person who I'm a dentist, and I also do some coaching, but I was a dentist who got really burned out. And what I would do at the end of the day, I would come home, and my wife would say, "How was your day?" Now inside, I think my wife was saying, "How was your day?"
Don't tell me. I don't want to hear it.
Yes, because it was only going to be negative, and I was going to take a day that was full of wins. We always have some wins in our day, but I would reduce my day to the worst thing that happened. And that's what I would spill out to her. And that's all she would get from me. I was so sick of being negative. And this was right around the time where I had met John Gordon and heard a little bit of his stuff. He's a huge positivity guy who's written some great books. But when John said, I used to be a negative person, and now I'm a positive person, I wanted to learn more because I was sick of being negative. I knew, but then I thought, how do I do this? So I thought about it, spent some time in quiet, contemplated it, and came up with this concept of win the now. And win the now, I call it the mindset of presence. So what it tells us is that the current moment that we're in is the most important moment. Mm-hmm. And while we're in the current moment, which is where we need to be, how can we find wins in that current moment? So for us right now, this hour, what do wins look like? Well, wins look like we figure out how I can hear you by, we had a little technical stuff at the beginning, but that was a win.
That was a win. That was before we started this actual interview, but yes.
Yep, absolutely. But even more, a win to me looks like us getting to know each other as we're having this conversation. A win looks like you asking good questions and me providing some good answers, and we have some good back and forth that benefits some of the people who are listening. Another win in this is if we do it well, we both have some energy from this conversation to carry us through the rest of the day. So it's how can we find wins in these moments? Because I find so often that people are either stuck in the past, and that can even be the immediate past, all the bad things that happen during their day, or they can be worried about the future. And so we miss out on that now moment. So that's when we're all sitting around the dinner table, the family's sitting around the dinner table, everybody's head is somewhere else, or everybody's in their devices. And you miss out on this incredible moment to connect, to reflect, to share. And when I find myself looking for wins and actually tracking them. I created a scorecard to track the wins as well, because I knew I needed to do something to really make a change. I was learning about neuroplasticity and how we can literally rewire our brain to go from negative to positive. I thought that was a hokey load of crap until I did it to myself. And now I come home at the end of the day, I will still share bummer things that happen during the day, but I always try to at least share a couple wins before we dive into that. And it has made so much of a difference. So every time I walk into a room with a patient, every time I come home, I'm just looking for wins all the time.
I love the attitude. I love the intentionality of it. I'm now curious about your dashboard, your scorecard. What the heck does that look like? Do you list out all the wins in a particular day, or share more about that?
Yeah, so I list out the wins from a day, and there's not a ton of room on the page because I just want to get in that mindset. So I write down a few of the wins. But even more important than that is we are going to take losses. There's things that aren't going to work out throughout the day. I'm a dentist. There's things that are going to go wrong.
Yeah.
Anesthetic might not go the way that I hoped it would. Somebody might have expectations that they didn't communicate to me that weren't met. And those things feel like a loss. I will also write down those losses. And a lot of times I just keep a piece of paper in my pocket and I will write down if there's something I need to come back to. I'll write it down. It does a couple of things. It gets it out of my head, but it also reminds me that I can't just stuff it. So then I come back to it when I have some time and I just ask one question of it. What can I learn from this? And that's it. And when we learn something, it still may feel like a loss, but at least we've gained something from it. And so processing those things instead of stuffing them. And then at the end of the week, I can look back and I can look at all those wins that I had, see the losses that I processed, and then it creates gratitude for the things that happen. And gratitude is something that we all could use more of.
Agreed. I like it. So I wrote down two things here, Eric. One was the document, my words, not yours, the wins, to shift the mind towards the positive, the gratitude that you have been given, but also number two, to ask yourself, what did you learn from a loss, and what could you do to apply that? What else do you do? What other tips of your coaching toolkit do you use with your clients that seem to be most effective? Those are great two ones right there. What else do you suggest people try out?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of micro resilience. I think there's so much untapped potential in that. And the reason is I put
Before you go, what does that mean for those who don't understand that? What is micro resilience? It's a great Scrabble word, but what does it mean?
Yep. So micro resilience are the little things that we do to right our own ship. That's probably the best way I can describe it. So if we're having a bad day, if we're stuck, what are little things that we can do to kind of get us back on the right path so that we don't just stay stuck in that bad feeling and we get drugged down and we get drugged down and we get drugged down. So I used to pay much more attention to macro resilience, which would be when you have big amounts of time to do things to try to help yourself recover. I like to think of life on a 1 to 10 scale. 1 is worst day ever. I'm completely empty. I have nothing in my tank. 10 is I'm as full as can be. And I am on cloud 9 that life could not get any better than it is right now. We exist somewhere in between those two. What happens is the world is constantly dragging us towards number 1. Look at the news, spend too much time on social media. All of these things, those are okay tools, but they tend to drag us. They tend to empty us. So what are things we can do to fill ourselves back up? I used to put so much pressure on a 1-week vacation. You know, how many of those do we get? I mean, you're laughing because I know you get this, Dean. Like I would come into a vacation completely smoked. I had nothing. I'd been trying to prepare my office to be gone, been trying to prepare my house, you know, all of those kind of things. And as Cousin Eddie would say on Christmas vacation, I coasted in on fumes. Right? I got nothing for the vacation. So I'm like a zombie the first couple of days of vacation. Finally, day 4 or 5, I get uncorked.
Yep.
Right? congratulations, you get 1 day to enjoy, and then you got to pack up and
And
go
then you
home.
got to get ready to come home again. I know what you mean.
Yep. So the concept I like to tell people is, ask people is, what do we have more? 1 week vacations or Tuesdays?
Yes.
Obviously, we have way more Tuesdays.
Yes.
What are little things we can do on a Tuesday to help right the ship? How about when we have 5 minutes in between something, instead of picking up our phone, going through some emails, social media, all those things, what if we stood in a pose like Superman with our feet just a little more than shoulder width apart, put our hands on our hips, and just took some deep breaths? 2 minutes. 2 minutes is all it takes. And we're reducing cortisol. We're increasing good dopamine and serotonin. We're getting the bad out and getting the good out. That's hokey, right? Stand in front. But 2 minutes. You have 2 minutes. I promise you have 2 minutes. What if instead of always bowing to someone else dictating your time with all the email and all the communication that we have to do, what if you got up and walked for 2 minutes, 5 minutes? What if you closed your eyes at your desk and just took 5 deep cleansing breaths? These are not difficult things. What if instead of going a certain way home that you go every single day, you take a couple blocks and make a little bit of a detour? And instead of listening to music, you're just quiet with your thoughts. So these aren't groundbreaking things, but they are simple things that we can do on a Tuesday to right the ship, instead of just always bowing to our phones and the incessant email and interoffice communication and all of that kind of stuff.
It's a really good point. I love it. The micro resilience, that's a great term. It makes a lot of sense. And everything you just mentioned, everybody who's listening can do that. I'm also was thinking about the language by which we describe our state of being is a way to reinforce that state of being. Like if I bump into you, we work in an office and I might say, "How are you, Eric?" And you might go, "Busy," which is our common sort of response to a very poor question, right? It's almost like, "Hi," "How are you?" And so the quality of the question begets the quality of the answer, and it also just reinforces our state of being. In that case, we're busy, and so we're always going to be busy. I was even just talking to somebody before I got on this call, and how did he want to end the call? Well, when you're taking on a vacation, So it's sort of like that's the thing to pay attention to look forward to, versus the Tuesday analogy, versus the little micro moments that we can take to be able to right the ship every day, every moment. I think that's a really good point. I think you really got something there.
Well, and if we do that, and if we do it really well, then we get to enjoy the 1 week vacations more.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah, because I don't want to show up for a vacation and it takes me 5 days to enjoy it. It's not fair to me. It's not fair to my family. It's not fair to anybody, because then I come back and then I'm grumpier than when I left.
Or you don't take as much vacation because you're afraid of the amount of work you got to do when you come back. So then you actually don't take the vacation, or if you do take it, you're working part of that time.
Yes.
So as everybody falls asleep at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, you hop back on your computer to get another 100 emails off.
Yeah. I think we can do better.
I think we can do better. Absolutely. Have you watched a movie, going back to your story around hiking, called 14 Peaks?
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know whether that's a great analogy for being in the moment or not, but it certainly is an incredible story of a Sherpa, I believe, out of Tibet, who ended up having a goal of climbing the top peaks in the world, the 25,000 or 20,000 feet or above, and did it in a year. Oh, the stories he told. My God.
Yeah. And what I thought was really great about that was that it didn't go super smooth for him.
No.
He had a major life situation. I think his mom passed away during the time that he was hiking.
Super sick. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I think that analogy of that is so important, because there isn't really a smooth mountain to climb. There's always a story. I was in Utah last year, and I was hiking, and I take people's word for it on some of these, and I read the All Trails review, and the word scrambling can mean a million different things.
Bouldering.
Exactly. Yeah. So it said scrambling. I felt like maybe it was a little more bouldering. And then I kind of took a key wrong turn, and it was real bouldering. And I'm looking down, and I'm like, this is not the trail. But I kept going. It worked. But what was crazy on the way down, I was moving pretty fast on the way down. I wanted to get back. And what happened is I lost my footing, and I fell, and I landed on my hand, which is kind of a scary thing.
Yeah.
Because if anything happens to that, dentistry is really not happening. But the much scarier thing is, as I came to a rest, there was a rock right here on my neck, just barely touching my throat.
Oh.
And I think, how close was I to having to figure out how to do an emergency tracheotomy
on yourself?
On myself.
Yeah.
So, I come back down, and I made it through and all that. And then there's the story that you can tell people. How was the hike? Great. Hike was great. Well, how was the hike really? Well, this and this and this and this happened, but I was able to overcome those things. And then a whole bunch of God's grace that I didn't, have more happen with my throat. But that's what happens. And I think people want to climb a smooth mountain, but the adventure really happens when the mountain isn't smooth.
Well, now you're getting me thinking here about a book called The Inner Game of Tennis by a guy named, I think it was, I forget, Gerber, I don't know. Oh, Comfort, I don't know, a long time ago. So my dad and I, when I was a kid, we would play tennis together, and we read this book called The Inner Game. And what I always was aware of was the metaphor of everything, that my backhand was going to teach me something about my state of mind at that time. And I think about your story about hiking. Are you feeling sure-footed? Do you understand the mountain that you are walking on? These are metaphors, these are words. But are you confident as you take this step, or are you feeling worried and concerned, or what have you? Are you focused on your movements, or are you somewhere else? The mountain teaches you that. Everything teaches you that, right? I'm just fascinated by how physical activity is such a great giver of lessons, not just because we get in better shape, but because of what it teaches us about our mental state. And I think that's what you're talking about too with the mountain, is that it's a place to go and learn, not just get somewhere.
It is. And oh, by the way, when you get to the top, you probably get $1 million views.
Totally.
Right? That so many people will never get, because they will always just stare at the mountain.
Yes.
And say, oh, that looks pretty tall.
Yeah.
I don't know if I should try that. I would have missed out on some of the best, most rich experiences in my life if I would have stared at the mountain and said, that looks too tall.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Well, Eric, this is great stuff. Tell us more about your book, and also how people can learn more about you and your work.
Yeah, so the book's available on Amazon. One of the coolest things about the book is I teach people what it means to be a dam. Basically, that's what we are. All we're really doing is controlling the flow of energy that goes through us. So we have a lake on one side, and we have a river on the other side. The river is all the stuff we do into the world, all the ways we expend our energy, all the ways we impact the world, the things we volunteer in, our jobs, all of those things. We're pretty good at getting our stuff done. We just do. We find a way. We borrow from sleep. We borrow from time with our families. We borrow from anywhere. But what we don't do is we don't fill up our lake. We don't take very good care of ourselves. And so in the book are a lot of micro-resilience strategies, a lot of ways to kind of know, where am I, to even have a basis for what do I need to do to take care of myself. And it's very interactive, a lot of chance to do some reflection in there. So definitely pick that up if you feel like you want to enjoy your 1 week vacations more. So
And the name of the book?
That Damn Analogy.
Damn Analogy. Is that
Yes.
a little
Yep.
double entendre there?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Tongue in cheek. Yeah.
Yep. So damn is DAM, just so
Yeah.
you know. But so there's that. And then, as far as the coaching, you can find details to that at my website, ericrecker.com. I'm a relationship guy. I love to getting to know people. I love getting to know people's stories and seeing if there's a way that I can help. So that's how it usually starts. We just have a half-hour conversation and see if there's any way I can help you. And if so, we'll keep the conversation going. If not, at least we met each other, and that's a win.
Last question. I just, before we got on this call, I found you on LinkedIn, and I saw a pair of feet that were very banged up, and then all this text describing the condition of your feet and why they were in such a bad way. Tell us what you learned about that particular hike, because from the rest of us looking at your feet, we're thinking like, that looks awful. That doesn't look like fun at all. What did you do that for?
Yeah. So I just got done with an event called 29029 Trail. And basically what it was is in Park City, Utah, we showed up, and day 1 we did a mountain marathon. Day 2 we did a second mountain marathon, and day 3 we did a third mountain marathon.
When you say a mountain marathon, how many miles are we talking? Are we talking the normal 24, 25, 26 miles, or?
So it's 26.2-ish. So I think day 1 was closer to 27, day 2 was about 26 and a half, and day 3 was like 28 and a half.
Are you running or walking?
Combination. So it's all between 6,000 and 10,000 feet.
Oh, gosh.
Yep. So my rule was always hike the uphills. I don't want to burn that kind of energy.
Yeah.
Flat, when it's not too rocky, slight downhills, I'm jogging those.
Understood.
So yeah, 8-hour days each day. But the thing about Utah, that Park City area, the dust and the dirt on the trails is really fine. So it gets through everything. And I wasn't much of a blister person. I've hardly ever struggled with those. But I had a quarter-sized blister after day 1 on my right, outside of my right heel. So yeah, and I really put the win the now principles into motion then, because when I walked into the blister care room, and there was a blister care room, there were a bunch of people that were really defeated in that room. And I had the opportunity to be very defeated in that room. Instead, I chose to trust the process, that the people in here know what they're doing. They're going to help me get patched up. And the worst thing that's going to happen is my feet are going to hurt the next 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
I went a little bit to that worst case scenario. I ended up actually having 2 blisters that first day, ended up with 5 total blisters, including one the size of a silver dollar on my heel on my left foot. And it was crazy. Day 3, that's when day 2 at the end, I noticed that blister. And day 3, I got up and I was tempted again to be very discouraged. But I thought it took me between 55 and 60,000 steps each of the first 2 days. So the maximum number of times that I'm going to feel pain today are 60,000 times.
That's all?
That's it. But at the end, there's this finish line.
Yeah.
And my wife's going to be there. And a couple of her good friends who are family friends are going to be there. And other people that I've been it's not really a competition. It's just to get across the finish line.
Yeah.
Other people that I've met are either going to be joining me for the hike, or they're at the finish line, or I'm going to watch them later. And we have these opportunities. Is it going to hurt? Yeah, it's going to hurt. Did it hurt? Heck yeah, it hurt. But there were so many points that I just got a big smile on my face because I got the privilege to be able to do this. I chose to do this. And if I would have chosen to quit and become my circumstances, right now, 2.5 weeks out from that, I'd really feel bad.
There's a lot of people who are going to say I would never do that. but the story and the lesson, I think, applies. I mean, if we think about challenges that we have with family, challenges that we have with work or other people, challenges that we have with our own demons, how many times are we going to want to stop the race, so to speak, and just say, forget it, I'm giving up? You know, the apathy. I think I was being interviewed by somebody once, and the word that really came up was the reason why, part of the reason why I do what I do is because I really have an avergence to apathy. I want to engage people. I want to be engaged. I think apathy is sort of like kryptonite to a social situation, to our ability to live our highest and best. Because you just checked out, you're done, you know, we're finished, and it's hard to be around that. And I have people that I love dearly who are in that state sometimes. But anyway, you have such great messages here that are simple. This isn't rocket science, but we don't do what we do. We got to make the Tuesday so that we can have our vacations. We got to reinvest in Tuesdays.
Yeah, and I would love to just share one more thing.
People go, man.
That, and they're like, there's absolutely no way I could do 3 days of 3 mountain marathons and all of that kind of stuff. You don't have to.
No.
I didn't start off doing that. I went for a hike one time, a short hike, and I thought, I freaking love this.
Yeah.
And so I went for a little longer hike, and then I went for a longer hike, and then I went for a longer hike, and then the doggone social media algorithm started popping these 29029 events in. But the point is, don't ever let what somebody else has done intimidate you or hold you back.
Right.
You have to figure out what your thing is. And the only way to figure out what your thing is to try a bunch of things.
Right. Exactly. When I was about maybe 15 years younger, I was with my nephew Ryan, and we were doing a rim to rim to rim Grand Canyon trip. And so we did a little bit of training. We got ourselves kind of ready with that trip, and we had these big packs on, and we were going to be camping down there and back. And by the time we were getting down to Phantom Ranch, and we would gone for a couple miles or a couple hours or so, we're feeling pretty like, hey, we got this, you know? We're feeling pretty good. We're feeling pretty cocky. And then this guy runs by in Speedos with a little water bottle on his back, and he's one of these mountain marathoners that you're describing, and all of a sudden we go like, oh my God. So we became very humble very quick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we learned from that as well. You know, it's all a process.
Yeah, and you know the thing about that guy, it might have not have been any stretch whatsoever for that guy to do that. That may have just been completely natural to him. That was been a huge mindset shift for me. I used to think that, man, I do 5Ks. Anybody who doesn't do 5Ks is less than.
Yeah.
You know, there was that temptation. And then I started to realize, and as I've done some of these bigger events and seen some of the people, some of the body types, some of the stories that are doing this, and I think, man, what they had to overcome to even get to the start line of this.
No kidding.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
I play pickleball on the weekends sometimes, right? I got into it. There's people here. I played just this last weekend. This gal, who I know is in her late 70s, maybe early 80s, had played 2 hours before the 2-hour match that we had. I'm on the chairlift on Mount Bachelor, getting off the chairlift. There's a guy sitting next to me who's 85, and he's going down Black Diamonds. I mean, these are inspirational moments for me when I see these things. There was something on social media where some guy, it was that marathon. You know it. I know you know it. That takes you through Death Valley.
Oh yeah, Badwater.
And it's like 100 and some 15 miles or whatever. It's of course you go at 8 o'clock at night and you're running at night because it's too darn hot. But this guy made it, and he's already 80, 85 years old. He was the oldest guy to do that run. It's like, now, do we need to do this? Is that the message here, to go out and run? No. The message here is, I think your point is to find those micro wins and to continue to figure out your why and to do it with grace and to be that flow of the river to fill up your dam, to fill up your lake, you know, every moment versus waiting for that one vacation that you can't wait to get to, and then you get stressed out when you finally have it.
Yeah, and so many people say, I'm stuck, I don't know what I want to do when I grow up, I don't want to, all of this kind of stuff. And I always ask, well, what have you tried?
Yes.
Well, I'm doing this thing and I don't really like it. Okay, well, what experiments have you tried to see what you might like?
Right.
Well, I don't know. Well, respectfully, you might stay stuck.
That's an option. That's a choice.
You might be 20 years from now still wondering what you want to do.
Right.
I don't want to live that life.
Mm-mm. Well, Eric, obviously we could keep talking all day, but thank you so much for your time and your energy. I hope that we can connect sometime in the future, and keep up the good work.
Thank you, Dean. This has been great. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Thank you for listening to Leadervation with Dean Newlund. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to learn more about Dean or Mission Facilitators Leadership, go to mfileadership.com. That's mfileadership.com, or check the show notes. Reimagine, facilitate, flourish. Transform your leadership success with Leadervation.